Greetings, Harbingers. Welcome to Iliaster, PewDiePie's favorite channel, your realm of personal development, stoicism, and cyber alchemy. And also a very warm welcome if you came from LinkedIn, if you are from HR, if you are from tech, if you are from sales. That's right, today is The Legend of Sales, a link to the tech, episode 3, my journey. So, in today's video, I'll be answering that question, what's your experience? And before we dive in, just take a look at this scenario. It's a holiday here. I am in the middle of nowhere, in the desert, taking a hike. I love this, walking in this beautiful morning. And I came across this abandoned house. There's nobody here, I checked. There is no forbidden entrance sign, so it's not private. Always make sure not to trespass private property, right? So look at that. And it's windy today, so I had to find a spot in which there's not so much wind, so the noise doesn't get in the middle of the recording. Anyway, without further ado, let's go to the video. As you know, I am looking for a tech sales job. I'm recording my progress here because I believe that this skill to break into tech sales or to get a job these days exceeds that of performing the actual job. Not sure if you're paying attention, but even on LinkedIn, I'm under the impression that like a big part of the job openings that we find there are some sort of, I can't prove anything, I'm just speculating, but it's kind of suspicious, like data selling, scam, you know. So be careful, be thorough when applying for jobs on LinkedIn. Pay attention to the companies, you know, and if the thing are legit, you never know. Anyway, let's talk about my experience. Just to give a quick background beforehand, tech and gaming especially have always been a big part of my life. My very first contact with games, and I'll explain why this is important for this video, was when I was 4. My older cousin came from another town with his brand new Sega Genesis, and I remember he presented me the Sonic the Hedgehog game from Sega Genesis, and wow, I was blown away as like a 4-year-old in the early 90s. Up to this day, Sonic is my favorite character. I grew up as a kid playing lots of games, Sega Genesis, SNES, Super Nintendo, PlayStation, and then PC, you name it. In my teens years, I had like PC, and I had this emulation trick in which I emulate a lot of games from early Atari since PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, run those games on PC. So in my town, I became kind of an authority on that, and people came to me, hey, help me with this, help me with that. How do you get this game, that game, you know? So that helped me a lot improving my IT skills. So formally, my very first job, I was 15. I lived in the countryside of the south of Brazil, a town with 10,000 people. It was a very small town. And I was new in school amongst my friends in the city as the IT guy. Anyone who had like a doubt with IT, they would come to me. So I made some bug formatting computers and all that stuff. On that time, in August 26, 18 years ago, an IT school had opened in the city, and I was invited to be a teacher for children, for kids. And they had like the books, and I had to teach kids like Windows, how to turn on the computer, what's a mouse, what's an icon, what's Word, what's Excel, Paint, a little bit of Photoshop. Wow, now I'm going to denounce my age. Macromedia, who remember the amazing Fireworks, Dreamweaver, Flash. I quickly enhanced my IT skills on that period by teaching, and as you might know, I'm a very shy and introvert person, so back then my speech skill was really good. I felt more comfortable speaking in public, you know, teaching kids and all. So on that same job, I soon evolved to, when I was 16, to teach all people, adults, elder. And I remember I faced some barriers because the adults had some sort of resistance. How in the heck, like, I have to learn from a 16-year-old kid, And, I was the teacher. I had to teach them. I remember my boss used to tell us, no matter what they say about your age, about everything, when you walk into that door, you know as much as Bill Gates. You want to show them that because they're paying for the best. That's why I hired you guys for. Honestly, I was pretty good at that job because I lived that. I couldn't get out from the computer. My mother would draw my attention. Hey, are you playing too much games and all? And sometimes I wasn't. Sometimes I was learning stuff. I worked there until 2007. In 2008, my friend's stepfather came all the way from Japan back to Brazil, to the city we lived. He worked several years in Japan with IT and all, and he went back to our city, and he started an IT support firm. He needed someone to help him run the firm, to do the service and all, and my name was the first that popped up. So he called me and he invited me over to dinner, and we discussed, and he made me a proposal. I left the school and went to work with this person. He was a very nice boss. I learned a lot. I wasn't teaching anymore. I went back to what I did here and then, but then I did more for like companies and all, which is formatting computer, providing like IT support, fixing printers. Those old printers that are like noisy. The laptops, fixing, all that hardware part. I really evolved on that part as well. I already had a background, but then I was like fine-tuned in both software and hardware on that context back then. I remember going to the companies to configure like internet, install cable thing and all. Building that network office part. That was the year of 2008. And was also my last year in high school. When I finished high school, I went back to my hometown, the capital of my home state, Curitiba, great city. Even though I liked my job there in the countryside, it was a very small town and there wasn't much space to grow. With the information I had, I went back to the big city. I was hired to do the same job I did in the countryside, but now in the big city, like formatting computers, support like fixing laptops and printers and all. With the addition that I used to go to several companies as well to provide like IT support and all. I remember going to companies to check if everything was great. I built a lot of like, it was a big thing back then, LAN houses, those cyber cafes that it was called. And I really enhanced my IT skills again with a more corporate context as well. So after that, I tried to apply to work for cruise ships because I had like a good English level I was almost 20 back then. I did all the interviews. I was going as a waiter, and that was a tip my cousins gave me because they were already working on that and they were like traveling the world, earning in strong currency. So I thought of working as some time before going to college or something, but even though I did all the procedures and I passed, they took way too long to call me to embark to start working. So I decided to go to college instead because it was taking too long and I didn't want to wait and waste my time, So I went to college. I graduated as an executive secretary in Brazil, like a bachelor degree. And in that time, I wasn't working for that IT company anymore, so I needed to work to pay college and to support myself. And I was in between, and I started to working in a hotel as a receptionist. I was hired to a good hotel in Curitiba because of my English. It wasn't like easy to find people who speak English back then. I think it's still a problem in Brazil, if you ask me. So I spent a year working as a receptionist, especially with international and foreign companies, foreign clients. It was like a great time to improve my conversational English, and I spent a year there. So by the end of 2011, there was an opening in the financial sector of this hotel because the person left, and since I was in college already studying like business secretariat, they offered me the job and I took it because to be a receptionist working like almost every day and going to college, it was really tiresome and I really needed a break. So this job was like Monday to Friday, and for the first time after a long time, I had like 3 weekends for myself to rest, And I took that job. I spent another year there. It was really good. I did all the invoicing, financial stuff. I got a little familiarized with accountability as well. I was studying that in college. I remember back then. All these company accounts I had to invoice. Those big groups of companies that go to the hotel, they have a different invoicing system. So I did all that financial accounting stuff. In the mid 2012, I had like a turn of events. That's the college had obliged us to take an internship to like fulfill the curriculum. The job I was doing, I couldn't do an internship inside my job because it had to be something specific. And I was like, okay, how am I going to fulfill this? I had to quit this job and I had to take an intern to earn like half what I was earning just to fulfill the curriculum. So in 2012, I accepted an internship in a bidding company, an IT bidding company, because they had some sort of, an agreement with my. I went to a private college, so it was like an agreement. It was really tough because I worked as an IT bid for selling IT hardware, IT equipment to the government. So I had to participate in those biddings to have the best price, meeting all the criteria. So I had to analyze those government contracts, find the equipment that matched the criteria, and try to bid at the cheapest price. I actually liked that job, but the thing is, it was too far away from where I lived, so I had to wake up at like 6 a.m., take 4 buses to get there. I didn't have money to eat because I was earning way less because it was an internship, and I could barely pay college and pay my bus tickets. So I remember spending several months eating like cream crackers and apple, and then walking like 3 miles to go to college and going back home late night in the bus. So I really lost some pounds back then. I fulfilled the internship, and by that time, a friend of mine from college, her name is Lillian. She's been an angel in my life. I'm very grateful for her. Lillian, if you're watching this, I hope everything is well with you. Big hug. Oh, almost fell here. I remember she got a job offer in a multinational company, and she was working in a law firm at this time. So she said, "Hey, I'm leaving that company and my job is opening. So would you like to go on an interview?" So I remember going to that office firm. The job was to be actually an executive secretary. So to do what I was studying for, right? English was mandatory because we're talking about 2013 here. I'd be analyzing lots of contracts. It was an international law firm that helped companies to do business in Brazil. It was focused on intellectual property that had to match with the Brazilian organs laws of intellectual property. We did the interview and I was hired. And that was 2013, my last year of college. I have to say, one of the jobs I most enjoyed. I really loved that job. I remember I had like an office of my own. I had a big table, great equipment. It was a beautiful place. My boss was a wonderful person. He is a wonderful person. And he taught me so much about life, about work. I was responsible for his and other lawyers' schedule. So I remember planned him a trip to Utah. He liked this, just what I'm doing here, like hiking and all. I planned him a trip to Africa to escalate Kilimanjaro. I learned so many about calendar managing, about trip, about events, and I was responsible for the whole office well-being, and I also provided IT support. In every job I had always happened to be the IT guy as well, because everyone came to me, how do I do this, how do I do that? I remember a certain point in time, and I was there, everyone asked me how I would like manipulate all those PDF files and all, because I always work with Adobe Acrobat, so you can do lots of things with those PDFs and editing PDFs. And what happened back then is that they kept printing lots of, wasting a lot of money in printing, while you could do like a big relevant part of the work just editing the PDF itself before sending it over for electronic signature and all the contracts and everything. So I remember one of the lawyers, one of the senior lawyers, asked me to like give a training to all of the lawyers so they could work more efficiently with this program. So I remember I was like teaching all those graduated lawyers how to use that program and how to save on paper and save on money. I believe it yielded a big savings for the whole law firm, right? And I spent 1.5 years working there. It was a really amazing time. I met lots of wonderful people, especially my former boss, of which I'm grateful for everything he did for me. By that time, this friend of mine, Lillian, from college, she reached out to me again from the multinational she was working, and she said, hey, look, I'm about to leave for maternity leave, and my job is going to be open again. Would you like to replace me? I don't think I'll be coming back because she was about to be a mother and all. I remember I told her, I don't know, I really like this last job you put me in, you pointed me for. She said, well, here is a multinational. I think it's a great opportunity for you because we are reporting to the US, so you'll be using more your English. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity for you. So I remember I went to my boss and I told him about it. I was always very transparent with him. He encouraged me to be like that, and he told me, well, I know that you like working here, but I acknowledge that that's a better opportunity for you. So you have all my support. You are free to go. And if it doesn't work, you can always come back. He was that nice. So I followed his advice and I took the job. They made me the offer and I took the job. So before leaving the office firm, my boss gifted me with a trip to Argentina. And back then, I never flew, so it was my first time taking an airplane and flying. And I went to Argentina. I spent 5 days in Buenos Aires. It was an unforgettable experience, like 10 years ago. So I'm really grateful for that. And then I went to this company. It was a multinational food chain, one of the biggest in the world. I think to these days the biggest one in number of stores. It's even bigger than McDonald's, I think. The branch of this food chain was located in Curitiba, my hometown. My job was to be a franchisee coordinator, which is supporting existing franchisees and new franchisees since finding a spot to a new store, to a new franchise, helping them all the way through with the equipment, with the contract, hiring people, training, until the opening of the store, meeting all the criteria that was demanded for the opening. And then after the store was open and running, they would report us their weekly sales and would report them to Milford, which is the HQ was located in the US. So in my office job, I really improved my English by translating all those complicated contracts with all those law terms. And in this job, I got to use my English every day, talking to the US and doing all this franchisee support. So I learned a lot from how does a franchisee model works, right? Since day one, Friday Night Spot until the open day. Again, I was also the IT guy. I quickly became the IT guy from that company. So I spent 2014 to 2018, almost 5 years working for this company. So what happened is that by the end of my contract, I was traveling a lot to north of the country to provide training and to represent the company in some legal issues that had sometimes between a customer and the franchisee, or the franchisee and the franchisor. So I had to represent them in some of those audiences, right? And also providing training for the franchisees. After this period, due to family circumstances, I moved to the other part of the country, and I left this company I worked for, and I started for the first time in 2018 working on my own as a virtual assistant, working remote already. My first client was a transportation company. I did all their financial work because they were in need of a financial sector. So it was a transportation company. It wasn't a big company, but I've made the owner back then a proposal. Hey, instead of hiring like a whole sector to help you, I can do this work like from my office at home. It's gonna cost you a lot less money than having a sector inside your infrastructure. So the thing is, I could solve the company's problem within the comfort of my own house. So they hired me. I started working as a VA. Before COVID, I did all this financial stuff, taking care of like accounts payable, accounts receivable, incomings, etc. We worked for a long time together, and it was good because I worked from the comfort of my home. And for the first time, I had a taste of what working from home is like. You work a lot, but flexibility is the best thing there is for me about this model of work. Then I kept working and COVID struck. I received a proposal as well. I was like working from home already. I received a proposal from a company from São Paulo to be their video editor. They were like an IT company. One of their activities was to edit courses that would be released like Hotmart. So I edited the client's courses video. Because I was playing with video editing here and there. Someone gave my name and I started working with them. I spent 6 months there because the company was sold for a group in Florida and my project was discontinued. I was a video editor for them, and I worked for the transportation company as well. All that from home. And I think I was blessed in a way because when COVID struck, I was already working from home. And like I knew the whole system already. In 2016, I already acknowledged that we had like the tech to work. Most jobs being performed from like home, you know. So I'm a big advocate of working from home. After the company was sold and my project was discontinued, I was applying to some jobs on LinkedIn, and I applied for this particular job in a company in Florida, a social media marketing company in Florida that was needed someone with Portuguese. So it's my native language. I applied. I remember meeting my boss. We had an interview. She was an extremely nice person. We talked and she gave me the opportunity. I started working for this company as an onboarding specialist, customer service representative, like project manager. And like experience-wise, it was the best job growth-wise I had. I have learned so many things, you know, about sales, about social media, about LinkedIn. And I had the privilege to blueprint a client project from scratch. So it wasn't, I'm gonna confess, it wasn't easy, but it was rewarding to have so many responsibilities and working a client's project from scratch until seeing them like yielding our results. So I had to coordinate like a whole team in the social media part as well. Like since day one, okay, what are you going to be posting about on LinkedIn and other media? So let's have like a 6-month plan. So I had to work all through all those details and deliver everything on time. So I really learned a lot, and I'm very grateful for the time I work in this company. You know, and all this information are on my is on my LinkedIn. You can check the details there. In the last 6 months that I was working for this social media marketing company in Florida, one of our clients, it was a succession company, one of the biggest in the US. The executive assistant that supported the CEO had left, and they needed someone to replace her temporarily until they could find someone in the US to be a full replacement. So because they didn't have time to hire and train someone, they needed someone with experience, like ready to start. And I am an executive assistant not only by graduation, but I have the experience. My boss back then from the social media company made the proposal if I could like be the bridge until they could find someone in the US to perform their work. So in my last 6 months, I dedicated all my time, almost all my time, being an executive assistant for the CEO of this big succession company in the US. Of all the executive assistant jobs I had, that one was the toughest one, because her calendar was extremely difficult to manage. She was a very busy business person, and I had to play puzzle with her calendar every 15-minute count. I had to organize these events, this, like, for example, these golf events or business events, trips, and etc. There was like this list of people. Sometimes people had some sort of allergy to some like to peanut, for example. So I had to tell the catering not to add peanut to the buffet and all. It was like really high level, and I've learned a lot. After 6 months, they could find a replacement in the US, and I fulfilled my function, and I was really happy for having this experience, and I met wonderful people there as well. So at this time, a year and a half ago, I left the company. I was going through a difficult moment in my personal life, and I really needed a break. I was working a lot and having some situations in my personal life. So I left, and I took some time for myself. On that period, I left Brazil. I came here to Europe, had to solve some situations in my personal life, and here I am now, starting anew as a person and seeking my next challenge as a professional. Since then, I'm happy because I'm starting a new life here. I have lost 40 pounds. My health is the best as it was ever be. So after thinking a while, as I spoke in the previous episodes, I'm looking for my next challenge in tech sales. So that was my whole job experience. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me via LinkedIn or whatever. Well, I hope you enjoy the video. Thank you so much. That was a long video. In the next episode, I'll be talking about the different sales job profiles: farmer, hunter, or gatherer. Thank you so much. See you in the next video. El Sai Kongulu.